Hello, Jim Howard here in Fort Worth, Texas. Today's date, it is September 17th of 2022, and it's about 15 minutes after midnight. I think today's Saturday. Let me check. Today is Saturday. So, I made the last video with Manicam, which I do like. I know an awful lot of you like OBS, and I've used it, and it's good too. But I like Manicam for a number of reasons, and anyway, I've purchased, so I don't know how many lifetime things I've purchased, from them, because it was just, well, anyway, I still like them. So the news today, big news on YouTube. I'm not really sure if it's big news or not. There's a guy called, well, his name is James Blackwood, and his site is the Raccoon Whisperer, and he lives in Canada. Remote, a little bit remote. I think just about everybody in Canada is remote. A lot of room up there. Wonder if we could the United States could send all of our Republicans up there. Wonder if we could figure something out. Anyway, just kidding. I was doing a cute shaking of my head. Let me do that over again. I wonder if we could send our Republicans here in the United States up to Canada. Just kidding. There we go. Anyway, I'm not sure who stumbled up here. I don't think I've been my son, grown son. Anyway, we all ended up here for a while watching this Raccoon Whisperer up in Canada, and he has raccoons, and he's been doing it for years, and he feeds them, I forget how many pounds of hot dogs, uncooked hot dogs, and they come up and they eat out of his hand and all types of stuff. And then sometimes they show up with their babies at a certain time. He knows, a lot about them, and the babies will show up, and when it's about time, he'll say, "Oh, it's time for the babies to start showing up, the new babies and stuff." Anyway, he has quite a following of. Let me get his, just in case I may. Okay, no, man. Let me click on the whole thing to save it. Copy, okay. Anyway, I watched quite a few of his videos, and then I kind of got tired of it, because it's the same thing, basically, But one time I got a notice, and I didn't even know that he did live streaming. And so I ended up there, and he's getting ready to sign on. So, well, then about 5 or 10 minutes before he was, let me move over here. About 5 or 10 minutes before he started up the broadcast, the thing was just going bing, 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 bing. People, and by the way, women were logging in, and they would type, "Oh, yeah, I'm waiting for waiting for him to come. He'll be coming on pretty soon. A whole bunch of women. And by the way, my videos, not Logitech, YouTube, you can go and see I've shown those on here to you if you've watched. You can, demographics of, and my demographics are 18 to 40. 100% male or 99.9 or something male. Anyway, these women were, waiting for him to come on. And so anyway, it's kind of interesting to watching him because he talks about, people, and I think mainly women, sending him all kinds of stuff. And he was saying repeatedly, don't send any more stuff. My place is filled with, and women were sending this stuff. Anyway, I seem to remember, I think, before a woman turned up for the day or something, I can't remember, for something like that. And, well, then a nurse from the United States showed up and spent several days there. And they went around there in Canada a little bit, eating places, a park, and that kind of stuff. And anyway, retired nurse. And I think she went to, then after she left his place, I guess she went back to United States, wherever. Then she was in Europe for a little bit. And, she said someplace that she liked to travel. Anyway, she showed back up at his place. And now they have announced an engagement tonight with the raccoons. So, romance. And I think there's going to be a whole bunch of disappointed women. So, so what else is new? Oh, okay. Manicam, I made a video earlier today, and I said I'm just going to use the Manicam program. I'm not going to have any of my software, different software that I, process it or anything else, and I did that, and my sync, voice is in sync. So I think that's where my problem has been. So I'm planning on, continuing to use Manicam. And I think my problem is solved. The only problem is my little intro that I had, 50-second intro. I think if I use my video editing software to add that on, I think it's going to be processing the video. And I think I may have a problem with that. So I could just click, the starting, or I could do it, put it at the end and click it, or in the middle or something. I'm not going to worry about the, but anyway, I hope that the problem is solved, and I'm going to continue to use Manicam until I do something wrong. Room is sort of messy. It's always because I don't have enough places to put things. I have a whole bunch of cables and connectors and monitors and a whole bunch of stuff. And they're just when I need a cable or I need something, I have to drag everything out to find just a one piece thing I need, and then usually it's on my bed, and then I can't go to bed till I take all that stuff and put it someplace. And now a little bit of news, and actually a little bit of politics. I mentioned this the other day. Governor DeSantis defends using taxpayer dollars to send migrants to Martha's Vineyard. If you're outside the United States, Martha Vineyard is in Massachusetts, and it's I don't think they let you in if you're poor. That's why I probably would not even be allowed to get in the, even get close to the place probably. It's where the Kennedys had their, what do they call it? Their place, They had a name for it. And I think I believe President Bush, well, he has had a place in Texas that he would like to go to. But I think he also had a place up there. Anyway, it's for wealthy people. And apparently, it's small, and they really don't have, they don't have many. Well, I'm sure they pick up trash and do all kinds of stuff like that, but there's no infrastructure up there. And the governor of Florida, DeSantis, as a political stunt, sent up 2 planefuls of immigrants up there, and they were given a piece of paper or whatever that said, when you get there, here's where you go, and there'll be people to help you with housing and food and all that kind of stuff. And when these poor people got up there, 2 plane loads, there wasn't any place there. And so for Martha, whoever, I don't know whether it's a mayor or a city council that's actually probably not paid or anything, they had to get on the phone and I guess on the internet or whatever and find, some place where these people could sleep, some place where they could eat, some place where they, and people responded, of course, in Massachusetts, big time, and they showed up, to help and everything. Now, I said in the video that I made that, this morning or when it was, that I thought that DeSantis was, of course he was doing it as a stunt, as a, stick it in the eye of the liberal Democrats up there. And I said it'd work with his people and everything. But I said that he might be mistaken because, Florida took in, unfortunately, am I kidding? Anyway, took in all the people who came from Cuba, welcomed, we come, you're welcome, you're fleeing communism, all this kind of stuff. And they came to Florida, and now, especially like Miami and everything, but Florida, especially Miami. I lived down there for 3 or 4 years in Miami, and I also lived in Orlando for a year or so. The Cuban community down there, they control, they control everything. Because they have the numbers, and they vote, and they have the issue, communism. Don't let communism come from, Cuba to the United States. But, so the Cuban community is very welcoming of people who come from Florida. From Cuba, even now. And if they arrive on I love the beaches, by the way, of Miami or of Miami and of Florida. But if you're a Cuban from Cuba and you arrive on the beach there, I've seen pictures when I was there, and stuff. Don't think I saw any myself when I was on the beach, but if a boat or a raft or a piece of wood or whatever, you come from Florida or from Cuba and you land on the beach. Welcome, brothers, and they come down and they meet you and they give you, here's where you're going to be living, and here's money for food, here's this, that, and the Cubans are taken care of. And of course, being a liberal Democrat, I'm in favor of that. The problem is people from Haiti, and Haiti is, oh my God, if you watch the news, it's horrible, terrible. It's always been. It's just a disaster. Some of those people wash up on the beautiful beaches of Florida, and they get a reception, they get a reception committee, and they're put back on whatever, well, I guess hopefully they're not putting them back on a thing that was sinking, but they're kicked out of the United States immediately. They land, go that way, or go over here to this detention facility, and then we will kick you out of the United States. That's not right. By the way, if you're outside the United States, in the UK or someplace else, that Haiti is, that the people there are black, very black. And so, now, I said that I thought this might hurt DeSantis. Of course, he's doing it for political purposes, and it's really probably not going to hurt him because he's saying, hey, I sent 2 planes full, of people up to Martha's Vineyard in Massachusetts, that, Democratic Communist state. And that will work. That will probably work for him a little bit. I think actually there is some chance that this is going to hurt him also a little bit. And now, of course, it comes out that, and which I mentioned, I think, in the video I made, that he uses, of course, taxpayer dollars to charter these 2 planes to fly up there and then just deposit them with nothing, Here it is. Get off the airplane, So he used taxpayer dollars to send these people there by chartered airplane, not by bus. The governor of Texas, when he sent people up to the liberal, communist, he sent a big busload to Washington, D.C., and he sent a big busload to New York City, and he, big news. I'm sending it up there to, and that. And by the way, the people of New York and the people of Washington, D.C. Accepted those people that came up there and immediately, went to their assistance and everything. But DeSantis is in a little bit of trouble, and it won't amount to much, but it, because they're saying that, this is not, he shouldn't have done it. He's not authorized to use, taxpayer dollars to do that. And I kind of wonder if, these people, if they did cross the border from Mexico into, well, Florida, I guess, that I kind of think that would be the federal government's, responsibility. And when they cross over, the federal government should be there, which they are, to ask, why are you here? And things like that. There are international treaties that I think just all the major countries in the world, have signed and agreed to because it's basic humanity and basic human rights or whatever. If refugees come to your country's border, you have to evaluate them according to international law that's been agreed to by the countries. Of course, there again, Republicans in the United States, they fucking hate the United Nations. They've always hated the United Nations, and they don't want anything to do with the United Nations. And I did discuss this because I remember discussing that if we didn't have the United Nations, the world would be much worse off than it is now. But anyway, the Republicans. But the refugees that come to your shore, and I understand about Europe and other parts of the world where you get terribly poor countries, and you get places where there's maybe flooding and all kinds of things, and governments that are killing you, and those people leave, and they present a grave problem for a lot of those European countries. But for the most part, the countries over there are doing the right thing, which is these immigrants come, and in this case, let's talk about the immigration service here in the United States. You detain them, and then you ask them, why are you coming? And if somebody was dumb enough, which they wouldn't be, if somebody was, I own a business in, Costa Rica, and the people down there are, they're poor, and I've got 2 or 3 Mercedes in my garage there, and I keep the garage locked, but they break in sometimes and try to steal my Mercedes or something like that. So I want to come in, to the United States or whatever. And, sorry, that's not a reason that you'll be allowed into the country. But if you come and you say, they're killing people in whatever country it is, and I'm persecuted because of my religion or my ethnic, maybe you're Chinese and you're in some country in Africa and they don't like Chinese because they run the businesses there, or whatever. But you come and you say, then the problem is the Republicans refuse. You need judges, and they're immigration judges. They're not judges that handle, parking tickets, and they're not judges that handle, murder trials and that kind of stuff. They're immigration judges. And we've known for forever that there aren't enough of the judges to handle these cases quickly. Investigation has to be done, check to make sure that these people are telling you the truth, and they're not just coming to the United States just because it's the streets are paved in gold and stuff like that. And the Republicans have just flat out refused to, hire more judges and that way the cases can be taken care of real quick. And then if somebody doesn't meet the standard for, being accepted in because of problems wherever you're coming from, then you'd be sent back. But just every step, the Republican Party has always been obstruction, and but of course now it's escalated to, I think they're a terrorist party, really. So anyway, now the other thing is DeSantis, sent these people up to Martha Vineyards. I'd like to go to Martha Vineyard. I wonder if I could get him to send me up there. Not that I could afford to live there or anything, but CNN right now is looking into a mysterious woman who got the immigrants on the flights to Martha Vineyard. Now that might turn out to be interesting, Does she, what's the story on this? It's going to be money. It's going to be probably criminal. Although I don't see Trump's name there yet, but, and I don't think it is, because actually DeSantis he's not a friend of Trump. DeSantis wants to run for president in 2024. And Trump wants to he wants to run in 2024. One reason he wants to be running is that he thinks that all the courts that are now racking up charges, felonies against him, everything from treason to who knows what, he thinks that while he's running for president, that the Justice Department isn't going to. I'm not sure about the state of Georgia, for one. The state district attorney down there has some major, has a major case against him. But I think Trump is thinking, so DeSantis, of course, wants to be the nominee in 2024 for the Republican Party. And whatever there is with this, and there may be nothing, whatever there is with this woman, it's probably money. Because the Republicans, does she own an interest in a charter flight company? And did she work out a deal with DeSantis? What did she give? What did he give? And they used her airplanes and at much higher, the state of Florida was charged way more money than, why didn't he send people by bus? The governor of Texas sent some real nice looking buses. He sent one, I don't know how many. He sent one to New York City and he sent one to Washington, D.C. So there may be a scandal there for DeSantis. DeSantis, though, is not, he's not Donald Trump. If Donald Trump, I don't think he'll be able to run in 2024. I think there'll be so many charges against him that I don't think he's going to go to prison, although he should. If I'd done one of the things that he has done, or any of us had, we'd be in prison. But because he's a ex-president, I don't see him sending him to prison, but I do think that he will be tried and found guilty, although he has a large following. And if you have one person on the jury says, not guilty, somebody wearing a Magna hat in the jury box, of course they wouldn't allow that, but, so, as a Democrat, I don't want DeSantis running for president in 2024 because he is smart. And he doesn't have the problems that, that the former President Trump has. Former President Trump is mentally unstable. He has a whole bunch of mental problems. And and that's obvious. If you think he doesn't, there's something seriously wrong with you. You need to take your medication or whatever. If it's not obvious to you, it's just remarkable that, believe me. And like I made a video. I actually worked for a guy years ago. He was director of security, And he did the same things that Trump does. Well, not the crimes, but, and I just didn't know anything about, and I did 4 grievances against him, and he lost all those grievances. And I mean, a couple of the grievances, when I wrote them up, it was like he gave up immediately, and then I went to the next step. I went to the next step, like when he gave up on, what was it? Anyway, I don't want to go through all that again. I think I probably went through it because my ex-wife is tired of hearing me rave about it, So when I filed the grievance, he immediately gave up. Oh, it had to do with, we took over at that hospital. Security took over also doing snow removal. For years, we had a company, Home Lawn and Garden, that was we'd call them when it snowed. They came out immediately with crews, took care of everything. Now, we'd help somebody, security would help somebody until they got there. And the employees were so grateful to us, to security, for pushing their car or doing, whatever we did. And then as soon as the director of security decided to take over, snow removal, and I was a supervisor, by the way, and so the director of security, he has a meeting with the supervisors. And so I'm there. I think can't remember if I was first shift supervisor or second shift supervisor. It doesn't matter. I was a supervisor. Well, okay, it does matter because okay. So the director of security says, oh, I've come up with this great idea. We can get a brand new Jeep, for security to use for patrolling and all that kind of stuff. Brand new one. And, it's going to be great, Now, what we'll do is we'll just take over doing snow removal. It probably won't snow. Actually, in Kansas City, Missouri, we'd had a couple mild winters, maybe 3 mild winters. And he said, so then he goes to the lieutenant, who was scared of, I've talked about that, I think. He would shake in his boots when the director of security would say something. The director of security would actually, I saw him do it. I knew he did it, but one time I really saw it, saw him. Anyway, the lieutenant says, great idea, Mr. Ross. And then he goes to the first shift supervisor. Okay, I wasn't first shift supervisor at that time. He went to the first shift supervisor, and a female. And, oh, great idea, Mr. Ross, great idea. Then he goes to the midnight shift supervisor. And, great idea, Mr. Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Then he goes to me. I said, I think it's a bad idea. We can't be doing, we're doing great, doing security. Everything is fine. If you take on something else, it's going to interfere. It's going to, I said, I don't think it's a good idea. And then he goes back, he talks some more, same stuff though, the very same stuff. And how did I get on this subject? Anyway, then he goes through the whole thing again, and then he goes to each one of us again, me last. And I said, no, I don't think we should do it. I said, but if we are going to be doing that, then we ought to be paid extra money, for doing the snow removal. And so, and that was way ahead of, winter wasn't there yet. So he doesn't say anything to anybody for a while, but then a month or two later, someplace later, he puts the word out to the security officers. Oh, we're going to be great. We want to be, we're going to be doing snow removal, and it's going to be just wonderful. We're getting a new vehicle. And the supervisors all agreed, I didn't go around and say, no, I didn't, But And so then we had winters, and I happened to be working the second shift when it happened. Uh, oh, by the way, though, of course, he ordered in. Now he got his a Jeep with a blade on it and all kinds of stuff. And we got in de-icers and salt and sand and all kinds, and we had to unload the truck, because I guess a union driver or something. We had to unload the the truck it was like August. I think we were unloading this stuff and putting it in storage till we needed it. But I happened to be working evening shift, and there was 3 of us on duty. That was like normal for the second shift. And one of us was outside patrolling, and 2 of us were inside. And then the outside officer calls, it started snowing. And so I said, okay, well, I forget, we'll put the blade on the, whatever. And I told the other officer, the inside officer, I said, I'm going to go out and help. And he said, well, Jim, I ought to, you're the super. I said, no, I'll help. And he said, no, we can do, So I said, okay. So we all 3 went outside. So we're outside, then it's really coming down, really coming down. What we didn't notice was that somebody came into the emergency room. Well, people were coming in all the time, but this guy came into the emergency room. So normally we'd have probably seen him and that type of stuff. And the nursing staff, this guy's just here for drugs or whatever. So they put him back in one of the rooms way back. And of course, one of the things security, did when they were making their rounds was to make sure that at nursing stations and places like that they don't leave prescription pads laying out there, So he was put in a room with prescription pads. I doubt they had a whole stack of them, but he opened up a drawer, I guess, and got a whole stack of them in addition to the one that he found. Anyway, I heard some clicking on the radio. The switchboard operator was we didn't have a dispatcher. That was our dispatcher. And I heard some clicking, and the switchboard was right by the front door of the hospital. So I popped in, stuck my head around the corner. I said, did you try to call? And yes. She says, admitting wants you. And so I headed over towards admitting, and the admitting person says, there was a guy right here with prescription pads writing his own prescription and wanted us to, and I said, where'd he go? And she said, I sent him around to a pharmacy. And I head around to a pharmacy, and the pharmacist hadn't gone home yet. And well, then I also got a call on the radio. Number 10 door alarm went off. That's right down next to administration and right by the pharmacy. I go outside, and it is a blizzard. And this guy's out in the middle of the street off of hospital property. And I said, sir, can I help you? No. I said, are you sure? Are you trying to get a prescription filled? He said, yes. I said, come on over here on property. I don't think I said on property. I said, come on over here and I'll help you. He comes over and he has a prescription pad or whatever. And I told him he was under, I called, got the other guys coming and put the handcuffs on him, took him around to the lobby. And we called the police. And then we had on orange jumpsuits when we did the snow removal. That was the first time we put on our orange jumpsuits, So the police, Kansas City, Missouri police show up and everything, And then they say, who are you guys? And then I went, security. Anyway, the next day I told the director, see, the guy came in. We didn't know he was there. He stuffed his pockets with, And then next day I said, Mr. Ross, I told you here. He says, oh, you did great. Wonderful. You did great. The guy was arrested. Anyway, the director of security there has the same problem, and I didn't know anything about those kind of things. So as I did my grievances, and I thought, as I gave him an education. He was a smart man, by the way. The director of security was a smart man. Not like former President Trump. But he had these problems of telling everybody how he knew everything and how important he was, and all that type of stuff. That same type of stuff. Bragged about the money that he had, and if I had known, and I didn't know until recently with the books about Donald Trump, now I recognize it. I would have quit and gone someplace else rather than to stay there, because it was impossible. You couldn't, One time the hospital was on, I mentioned this in several videos, the hospital was on fire, and the director of security, and he got a call up, our offices were on the 6th floor. He got a call on the telephone up there from a department head, the head of the volunteers. Very important position, by the way, if you want to get a job at a hospital, and if you can get the job being in charge of the gray-haired ladies or blue-haired old ladies or whatever, if you're the director of volunteers, you will have some power, because the hospital realizes all those ladies coming in and doing little things saves the hospital a ton of money. But anyway, he got the call, and instead of calling on the radio, to the security officers, the three or I think it had been 3 of us, I believe, working. This would have been the day shift. I think there had been 4 of us. Anyway, but then there was also 7 parking lot attendants who would have been of help. Anyway, instead of putting it on the radio, he just goes down there so he can impress and the firemen come in. Because anyway, I was walking down on the 2nd floor. I'm walking there, and there's a plant ops guy coming towards me. And I said, "I smell smoke." And he says, "I do too." And then I unlocked one door on this side, he unlocked the door on the other side, and it was a telephone equipment room, the door he unlocked, and the smoke just came pouring out in fire, telephone equipment room. And so I immediately, keyed up my radio, emergency doctor red, telephone equipment room, 2nd floor, emergency doctor red, to the switchboard operator. But of course, then I also immediately pulled the fire alarm panel, which rang also at the switchboard and at the fire department with a location, And also, when I pulled the thing, of course, fire doors closed, air handlers shut down, all that type of stuff. And of course, I knew that was part of my job. Part of our job, I knew how many units would be responding from the fire department, whether they were pumpers or hook and ladder or what. I knew where they would, when they pulled in, where they would go, and that type of stuff. So, and they should have been there really quick, because they were just really close, and they always showed up really quick. And so then no firemen, So then I take the radio and I call. Right away the director of security, gets on the radio. He's there outside the gift shop, and he calls me. "Oh, Jim, the fire it's the electric motor underneath the refrigerator here for the flowers for the gift shop." And "No, sir, the fire's on the 2nd floor. It's in the telephone equipment room. Heavy smoke and fire." And he comes back. "No, Jim, it's up here. It's just the electric motor on. I've got the fire department here." And I said, No, the fire's here on the 2nd floor. I can see it." And he says, "No." And I just took the radio and called the parking lot attendants out where I knew the fire, he'd already stopped the fireman that came in on the 3rd floor lobby door, So I called out and I said, "Do you have, firefighters out there?" And he said, the parking lot attendant said, "Yes, Jim, they're out here." I said, "Bring them in the dock doors over by ICU and the cafeteria. This is where the fire is." And so he brought him in. So, but that's, a smart man, but that thing of wanting to impress people and whatever. And anyway, the grievances I did, bang, he got, he got in serious trouble. But he told me one time, he says, I'm going to tell you the secret of, keeping a job. And he says, anything here at the hospital, when there's something comes up and they want somebody to do it, handle it or whatever, he says, I volunteer and I take it. And he says, that's a way to keep your job. He actually, he shouldn't have, but he lasted years and years after, after I had moved on. Anyway, 45 minutes. I did not intend to talk this long. But anyway, I'm going to upload this video, and hopefully it will be in sync. Thank you very much for watching.